who says peace and black African power in the chat. Shoot the Breeze topic number 1 says, do you still believe in Russia as an ally to Africans? Let's get serious. This came with 2 attachments. First one takes us to a post by one angry biracial. Make sure you guys could see what I see. There you go. So this is a post from Angry Biracial. It says, reports reveal Russia is forcing Africans into suicide missions in Ukraine. Russia is forcing Africans into suicide missions in Ukraine. Before I get any deeper into the topic, let me welcome in Black Steel this week. Black Steel, how are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm good. Thanks for coming through.
No problem.
Yes, sir. So, again, should be topic number 1. Do you still believe in Russia as an ally to Africans? Let's get serious. So, this takes us to Angry Biracial's post. It says, reports reveal Russia is forcing Africans into suicide missions in Ukraine. So, this is a clipping of online, I guess, newspaper. It says Russia forces African recruits to become suicide bombers. Thousands from the continent being press ganged by Moscow before being sent on quote unquote meat grinder attacks. Before I show you the video, let me just look at some of the comments. There's the 28 comments. Someone says they could use a robot to deliver bombs, but they just want to hurt black people. Someone else says they should have been home, talking about the Africans. Someone else says, I tried to warn several Africans, especially when those vile Eastern Europeans started pushing nonsense propaganda about Russians not being racist. They call me names and accuse me of being many things. I feel sorry for the families of those enlisted. It must be sad knowing your family and friends threw their lives away for nothing. That's just a few of the comments I want to touch on. There's a second attachment here. Let me share this tab with you guys. Make sure you guys can see it. Shout out to Kofi in the chat saying Black Power family. We're going to watch this short video or reel. Might play it twice just to make sure that the point comes across.
Сейчас побежит хули ебать, по лесу будет скакать. Давай, шо сказал? Давай, иди, сказал.
О, глянь, сколько одноразочек. Еще и поют. Радостные. Ничего, сейчас на залив пойдут. По-другому запоют.
When Malcolm X said the white man was the devil, he wasn't just talking about Americans. Russians are Europeans, they're white men too. And instead of fighting their own wars, they do what these cave beasts have always done. They capture, they enslave, and they force black bodies to die for them. Because Russia is getting his ass kicked in Ukraine, it is tricking and kidnapping Africans and forcing them to be suicide bombers. He has a bomb on his stomach because in their eyes, black bodies are disposable. They always have been. It's the same thing here in America, except there's no literal bomb strapped on black soldiers' chests. The vast majority of black soldiers are in the infantry, on the front lines. Black bodies have always been disposable, cannon fodder, worthless to America. And until we start caring about our own bodies, we're going to keep being disposable for white wars, for white oil grabs, used as pawns to terrorize other brown countries and brown peoples. People of African descent all over the world need to understand one fundamental truth. The white man, no matter if he's American, Russian, German, anyone who hails from Europe, from the Caucasus Mountains, is your enemy.
So I'm going to play that again because sometimes I forget. This is also an audio podcast. And, you know, the empty spaces doesn't help the person who's listening to just audio. So I'm gonna mute it. I'm gonna play it, and I'm gonna tell you what's happening on screen. So right now, we're looking at a black soldier with a bomb attached to his chest. Russian military men are behind him, prodding him, sending him out ahead of them. They tell him things like "go on, move," like they're kind of forcing him out into whatever the conflict is that's going on, and they're being very messed up about it, saying like "go, move." I said, things like that. Then there's a scene here where Africans are out in the forest. It's snow. It's snow on the ground. Africans are kind of entertaining. African soldiers are kind of entertaining themselves, communicating in their language. I think. And off screen, someone says, "Look at the disposable ones." Talking about black soldiers. These dudes are there. I don't know how they got there, but they're there to help you guys with your conflict. And you're filming them talking about, look at the disposable ones. After this, they're clowning the fact that the Africans are joyful. These African soldiers are joyful. They're singing. They're doing the things I imagine you do to keep your spirits up. But these guys who they went to help, these guys are clowning, right? And now they're kind of cracking jokes that don't worry about it. They'll leave here and they'll start singing different. You know what that means. So I'm going to now replay the audio from the person who posted the video. You heard this commentary a second ago, but you'll hear it for a second time.
The white man was the devil. He wasn't just talking about Americans. Russians are Europeans, they're white men too. And instead of fighting their own wars, they do what these cave beasts have always done. They capture, they enslave, and they force black bodies to die for them. Because Russia is getting his ass kicked in Ukraine, it is tricking and kidnapping Africans and forcing them to be suicide bombers. He has a bomb on his stomach. Because in their eyes, black bodies are disposable. They always have been. It's the same thing here in America, except there's no literal bomb strapped on black soldiers' chests. The vast majority of black soldiers are in the infantry, on the front lines. Black bodies have always been disposable, cannon fodder, worthless to America. And until we start caring about our own bodies, we're going to keep being disposable for white wars, for white oil grabs, used as pawns to terrorize other brown countries and brown peoples. People of African descent all over the world need to understand one fundamental truth. The white man, no matter if he's American, Russian, German, anyone who hails from Europe, from the Caucasus Mountains, is your enemy.
Yeah, well said by, I guess that's the angry biracial. Well said. Someone commented, said, this is one of the best, if not the best of commentaries that I've heard all year. Thank you for this video. Someone else says this isn't war. So let's try to top that. Let's try to top the commentary here. Real quick, let me touch on what's being said in the chat. Shout out to Trigger Happy. Trigger Happy says, black people in Russia or Ukraine are not very wise. I'm sorry. We all need to get familiar with the idea of positive neutrality when it comes to our foreign policy. It calls back to the Israel topic too. He goes on to say, positive neutrality should be understood as us, or as, I guess that's the U.S., as black people working together, by race, then working with other nations we don't have strong relations with, then taking the wealth from other nations. That wealth would go to black people while we try to maneuver relations with foreign nations. Russia definitely not an ally by kinship, as we can see here. Russia is useful in limiting NATO influence. Real quick, due to the platform that I'm using, StreamYard, when you guys put those emojis, I don't see the emoji, just to let you know. I just see it as letters. So if you could spell it out a little bit, that'd be great. Provide triggers for evolution says, I think Africans joining the Russian military is a symptom of economic desperation. Reason why the continent needs to get its economic affairs in order. Otherwise, this form of exploitation of black bodies will continue globally, keeping Africans in a disadvantaged position. Very good comments so far. Keep the comments rolling. That helps the conversations up here be even a little bit more thorough. Before I get into it, let me welcome in Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, what say you?
Peace, my brother. What's going on, Black Steel?
Yes, sir. Thanks for coming through. Let me start, Brother. Let me start with Black Steel. Black Steel, do you still believe in Russia as an ally to Africans? Let's get serious. Talk about it.
Well, I don't know where it was said that Russia was an ally to African people. Some we have no friends, right? We don't really have any allies, especially in the white world. Um, I would say that if you need to be strategic, you could play one enemy off of the other. We know Russia wants to limit NATO's influence. So it's possible to play one hostile European power off of another one. But I want to know how they got there. Are they signing up to fight in another country's military in exchange for what? Citizenship, scholarships? I just want to know. And I don't even know what these African people are from, but what course of events came about to find you in the Ukraine, right? Um, that's one thing. But yeah, I don't think any European nation is our ally, right? They can be used strategically, There may be some ideological things we may have in common, but Russia is Russia. It's not the Soviet Union anymore. Soviet Union was communist, anti-imperialist, and these are just regular white people. Let them fight their war. And we saw what happened when there were some African students in Ukraine who were in Ukraine at the time, and they were trying to push them to fight on the front lines. So, but the reason those African people were in Ukraine was because they were going to school there, because they were not able to get the educational opportunities in their home countries. So you're going to see this problem. This is a problem that is not just in Russia, but you can see that for the U.S. military as well. Why do young people join the military? Sometimes it's a family tradition, but a lot of times it's a way to get out of poverty, right? The military runs a poverty draft, right? In the poorest counties in the school districts, you have the ROTC, and they recruit there, and they say, hey, if you want to get a better life at the ghetto, or you want to go someplace and start making money, you can join the military. You can have a 20-year career, and you can graduate in your 40s, and so on and so forth. And this is something that is very attractive to some people because, again, but they lack opportunities. And I think that what we're seeing for these black people fighting for the Russians is really just a global aspect of the military poverty draft that's in place. So that's my thoughts on it. I think that what you're seeing is desperation, and if they had an opportunity to do something better, they probably would. I think this is it's really sad on his face.
But Black Steel, before you go, so I didn't realize at first there was slides here. So they say that South Africans are being lured to suicide missions in Ukraine. You have a guy here saying I was tricked. An African athlete lured to Russia for work ends up in front lines of Ukraine war. Well, Black Steel, the question I have for you, I guess, is: has that ever been the case? Has it been true, or is it true that you're going to join these people's military and get a better life afterwards? When has it been true? When last was it true? And how come we aren't picking up on, our people aren't picking up on, you're not going to get anything better out of it? They watch their own white folks be homeless all about in Seattle and all this kind of stuff. They're not checking for them. Why do we still fall for this idea that we have some future after risking our lives serving these people?
I think that the imaging and the propaganda is very effective about many young people. Um, if you join the military, you get 4 meals a day, you get a place to stay. Um, and that's very attractive to somebody who doesn't know what they're gonna do out of high school, and they have never been educated with with any type of pride for their race, any type of understanding of global politics or anything else like that. That's something that, hey, I can join the military. And like you said, there's a lot of veterans who come out homeless and with mental, PTSD and mental issues. But then and look at that small percentage. Or look at this guy. Went did his time in the military, and now he's retired. He got nice money. They don't look behind the curtain and see the struggle that so many people who joined the military had to deal with. So I guess a lot of it, like the dude said, he was tricked. I think a lot of it is ignorance, personally, especially in this situation here. You had Africans join the Russian military. Like, I'm confused. Like, there's wars you can fight in Africa if you want to just want to fight somebody. I don't get it.
Yeah, excellent point. There's wars in Africa you could go and fight if you just want to fight. But this is, I suspect there's a little something else going on here. And I think you kind of touched on it. I think it's low racial self-esteem. I think we feel like we did something by fighting for these folks and being able to say, well, we fought for y'all during such and such a time. And at first I was beginning to think maybe there's a maybe we're failing. Maybe we're not working hard enough. We're not outmaneuvering the propaganda that they get. But I'm saying, I mean, for like in America, for black folks, you've known for 50 years or more that you don't really get nothing out of serving. Sure, you may get a couple of meals a day and this, that, and the other, but what happens after? And there's enough examples to see what happens after. I think there's something else going on here, but let's see what Brother Bakari says. Brother Bakari, do you still believe in Russia as an ally to Africans?
Hell no, I never believed it. I never thought you could use where I disagree with Black Steel. You can't use a European country against another when you don't have a military to defend yourself. They all have the same end goal, is to take from black folk. And the problem is black folk run around the world, African folk run around the world looking for the people that has historically treated you awful, to look out for you, right? To take care of you. I'm going to Ukraine to get an education when you should be fighting a war, and your revolution should be at home to overthrow the government that keeping you in that position. But I'm going to go to Ukraine. See, it bothered people when I said, if that was my country, I would make them get in my military too. War start, now you want to leave. You ran your ass over here to get some benefits. Now war start and you saying it's not your country. It doesn't work like that. We can say, well, it's wrong all we want. Right? It ain't about right. It ain't about whether it's wrong. Right and wrong. It's about, but I did this for y'all. Y'all gonna do something for us. So you run over there. And now that happened. And now you're in Russia. That's why I'm still second guessing, and I will forever question the friendship that Burkina Faso have with Russia. I will forever question it. Name something Russia has done for African people other than talk. They ain't never went to war for African people, had it? I can name a time when the Zulus was fighting over in late 1800s, early 1900s fighting. I can name a time where they sent their military to South Africa to fight with white people against the Zulus. But we can't name a time where they went to war for African people. You can't use them. And until we realize that the only people we can truly use is us, and if we want our stuff better, we're going to have to overthrow our governments so we can make our stuff better the way it should be, then it won't get better. Another thing, like when Black Steel said, it's like black people in America joining the military. Not really. You can say it's almost similar. But black people here love to say they're American. Like me, I'm African, but I was born and raised here, African American. It's completely different than saying I'm going to join a military in a country where I was born and raised, where my ancestors been here 300-400 years, than me getting on a plane, going to a frozen ice box called Ukraine for an education, or letting somebody trick me to come to Russia. But there's been a lot of Russian propaganda and a lot that black people believe about racism in Russia. They think it's different. They have places in Russia where black people can't even go. Bwana was on the panel one time. We were all on the panel. And I can't ever remember the guy's name. But Bwana looked him up. A black boxer from Russia. And he just constantly talked about all the racism in Russia and how he was constantly called the N-word in Russia and how what they would do to black people in Russia. But for some strange reason, we still feel we can use these people to fight the other ones. No, you can't. No, because you haven't built a military to defend yourself. If you had a military, a strong military, where you could use them and they can't turn and take from you, that would be one thing. But if you have to depend on them and the Chinamans and everybody else to do every damn thing for you, you're really in a position where you can't use nobody for nothing. You can hope and pray. And that's what black people is doing all around the world, hoping and praying. So no, they are not an ally. They would never be an ally. And I don't care who don't shit. There's been a lot of people who don't like what I say about the situation, but that's not a good idea, tying your hands with white folks like that. All of them are saying they all want to run the world. Russia and Ukraine, those are just Vikings. If you study the history of these stuff, these people have never stopped fighting. The Russians, those are the Rus. Rus is the old Norse word. Rus is the root word for Russia. Ukraine was founded by Vikings. Greenland, who the lunatic in office them say they want. Greenland, founded by Vikings. Then you have Denmark and Norway gonna stand with all this shit, just Viking shit, and they've been having these same wars for 1,000 years. And now all of a sudden, we're gonna figure out a way to say, yeah, they're gonna partner with us. No, they are advanced when it comes to war. They've been making damn weapons of mass destruction for a long time. Go back to the cannon and everything. They've been doing it for a very long time, and we haven't tried to do anything to defend ourselves. So you can tie your hands with somebody who's much powerful than you, and whoever you are trying to get them to help you move, whoever you want moved out of your way, once they're moved out your way, like Dr. John Henry Clark said about the Arabs over in Egypt. He said the Arabs helped the Egyptians get rid of Rome. But the Arabs been on their back ever since. If you haven't built anything to defend yourself, you just gonna go down that road with somebody else, a different person that want to treat you bad and take all your stuff. That's my thought on it. I yield the mic.
Good stuff, Brother Bakari. Real quick, you guys probably noticed, those of you on Twitter, that there's there's been a lot of heated discussions about the Arabs in Egypt the last couple of days because young African American brother I show Speed, who's a YouTube influencer, went over to the continent. He made several stops, but I guess most recently he went to Egypt, and he was asking them why are the noses on these statues destroyed. And this Arab woman is giving him some bullshit as to why. You could kind of tell he's looking at her like, bitch, I know why the noses are gone. But now though, you have all these Arabs out of Egypt who are talking about we are the true Egyptians. You black guys are trying to erase our history and all this kind of stuff. It's very interesting. I thought to bring a prompt on it, but maybe Trigger, since you've been following, if you don't mind, maybe you'll bring something next week for us so we could tackle it. It's very, 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 very interesting. Also, to Brother Bakari's point, I think we made that play before, that pitting the one European power against the next. We made that play before. We were, some will say we weren't even successful then, but we were successful because Haiti became an independent nation, the first black independent nation. So it did work. They just got sabotaged after because all these Europeans, to Brother Bakari's point, got back on code, and they handed a financial whoop ass to Haiti for that, and Haiti has been in a mess ever since. So I don't know if we could play that with Russia again, but I think Trigger makes a good point in the chat. He says Brother Bakari is making some important points, but to be fair, AES is in a position where they can make partnerships compared to other black nations and communities. So I would give you that AES stands a little stronger than what we've seen in the recent past. But still, this idea that Africans are leaving the continent or wherever they are to go and be pushed on the front lines is cannon fodder. When my panelists here made good points, there's got to be somewhere in Africa you could go and support. Shit, Brother Bakari said it. In your own home country, you should go and fight and try change the government and how things go and etc. But Bakari said a lot of things towards Black Steel's points. Black Steel, I'm gonna give you a chance here if you want to respond to Brother Bakari.
Well, I mean, I do agree that, unless you have a military, you really shouldn't be trying to make alliances with people because what are you going to get out of it? People are trying, many countries, in fact, I would say most countries in the world are trying to break away from the US's hegemony. They are tired of being, having the dollar weaponized against them. So they're looking for alternatives, right? And you see a multipolar world starting to emerge. A lot of people are trying to trade with China. They're joining organizations like the BRICS movement. Again, Russia is no one's ally. Russia's not in it for because they just love black people. But no, I mean honestly, when you got to deal with situations like this, black people going overseas to fight another country's war like that is ridiculous. What are you going to get out of it? So I don't have any problem with that there. It's just in the past, like you mentioned with Haiti, for example, they were, the Haitian revolutionaries were able to get weapons from the Spanish, use them to fight against the French, things like that. You can try to get in where you can fit in. But the ultimate goal should always be your independence and your freedom. And, going overseas to fight for the Russians and then be humiliated and being served up as cannon fodder, things got to improve. I assume these people are driven to desperation. If we don't address the material conditions in their home countries, this is going to continue. But I don't really disagree with what Brother Bakar is saying at all, honestly.
Hey,
I think
Black
that black
Steel.
boxer was
Black. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought.
no,
Go ahead.
no, real quick. I think the black box you thought, I think it was like Kevin Johnson or something like that. KJ, the black Russian boxer who was complaining about all the racism and stuff like that. But Brother Bakari, go ahead.
In Black Steel, what you just said, that's that's why I said the revolution should be in these African countries. And then we can get the proper we can get the proper leadership in who's going to take care of the people, because that's insane. You have all of the resources in the world and you have to go somewhere else to let somebody tell you you need their education. Like if you go to the hospital, right, and you see a lot of, sometimes you see African nurses, right? You know why they're a nurse here? Because their education in Africa is not valued by Europeans. Most of those people have already gone to school in their country to be a doctor. But they have to go to a European country or maybe an Asian country, but mainly a European country to say, I'm a doctor. But when you're constantly bending your knees to them, we're gonna constantly go through this as a people, because really it affects the Africans in the diaspora with these crooked people in charge. See, when I say what I say about Burkina Faso, don't mean I don't like the fact that they're fighting for their freedom and they want to get away from that. But we do need a military, right? And that's all I'm and that's what I'm saying. It's ours. That's why our revolution should be over there. Because let's say hypothetically a European nation come and overthrow and get them out and say, oh, we gonna, so what, they just gonna place a puppet there for them so they can get what they want. Man, there's no way that in 2025, and I'm not knocking nobody for building up their country now, but in 2025, you're still bragging on, we basic infrastructure. We got paved roads now. Come on, man, we shouldn't be that far behind, but we're that far behind because of these crooks who's in charge, who don't care as long as they're rich, their family, their friends, and everything around them is rich. They don't care about the other people. We have all the resources in the world. And I'm not saying don't use, if I don't know how to do this. Now, I think they should be reaching out to America if they can, and have African American asphalt companies come over there and let them train you, make them millionaires, and let them show you how to use the equipment and show you how to pave your own roads instead of going to Europeans and Asians. But that should be the ultimate goal. If it's something I don't know how to do, I will use you for that. But it's a limited amount of y'all that can come here, unless they're some Africans from the diaspora. It's a limited amount that gonna come. And once we got it under control, we don't need y'all no more. Y'all get up, y'all leave our country, and it's just that simple. You know, Mike.
Yeah, recently we talked about how Ghana sent structural engineers to Jamaica after the hurricane stuff that happened there this past year. And I want to say it was today or yesterday, I read where I think it's Rwanda is sending a crew now too to go help Jamaica. And my thing is, like Brother Bakari said, why not at times invite those of us in the West, I guess you could say, invite those of us with the technical capabilities, because we know the truth anyway. We know that most times on these jobs, we talked about this before. I talked about my experience in like research and science and stuff. Most times it's a technician who knows the shit, and most times it's one of us, some black or so-called brown person doing that job. So why doesn't the continent, the leadership there, start to realize, hey man, we have our own people. They're not just good for media and entertainment. They are also educated out there by these folks, in these folks' schools, in some of the top schools in the world. Why don't we invite them to come and be the lead engineer as opposed to being the associate engineer or some shit in the States? You come and be the lead here. And we might not be able to compete in terms of raw salary, but we can give you enough perks of being back in your homeland, and we could give you enough perks around that idea that makes it worth it. I don't know why I haven't much seen African leadership do that. Even the AES now, I haven't heard that from them. But is there any other thoughts on this, gentlemen?
Well, I think that until conditions improve on the continent, you're going to see more of this happen. I think that a lot of people are struggling, and this seems to be a way out. As silly as we see it, things are going to have to improve on the continent itself, I think.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely,
100%.
Black Steel. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Africans on the continent need to strategize around that improvement, which will involve a lot of us who are out here, who have at least the know-how to do certain things, or at least have the ability to learn how to get the solutions that's needed out there. So, we're looking at you now, continent. Let's move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2, man. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 is an interesting one. I posted this in the general chat on the Discord. If you haven't joined the Discord, click the link in the description of this episode and join. This